Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you. This is a room full of networkers. You guys respond well. My name is Angel, and I am part of Warrior 321. We are a local anti-human trafficking awareness and education group, and our entire mission is to end human trafficking. Some may say that it's lofty. I say I don't care. We're going to try anyway. So we do that by means of detect, disrupt, and dismantle. And one of the best ways that you're able to do that with, I believe, any type of crime organization is by awareness. Awareness is power. If you're not aware, then you don't know. So and bear with me here, my hope is that you leave mad because you've learned something new. And it leaves you somewhat unsettled. And you go and you do research for yourself. Last month, we talked about the FDLE website and how you can know thy neighbor. Everybody should. For the purpose of just knowing who lives close to you. You can go on the FDLE website. You can find out the registered sex offenders and predators that live in any Florida address. But I encouraged everyone, I taught you guys how to walk through the website. And I know that there were some people that left actually pretty upset, because they had no idea. Well, that's my endeavor. So I thank you again for being here. For those of you that have returned, for brand new faces in the room, thank you so much for coming. I'm sure you probably saw a video on Facebook, or Tony told you to come, or you met me somewhere out and about, or Scott, or Kelly. However it was that you heard about us, I'm just grateful that you're in the room. So, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Everybody's checked in? Either on the website or on the... Okay, good deal. So real quick, I would like to thank Pamela as she is making her way to the front of the room. Pamela is our food sponsor. How sweet and generous of you to offer. She actually offered quite a while ago, and this was the spot that I had. So she works part-time for the care line with Hernando County Sheriff's Office. So, absolutely, come over here.
I'm just going to say 60 seconds worth.
Go.
How many of you know someone who lives alone in Hernando County? Wow, look at this. Well, the Sheriff's Care Line program has been in effect for over 26 years, helping people, keeping them safe, saving lives. And they fill out a simple application. You can go onto the sheriff's website, go onto programs, safety and education, Careline. You can print out an application, take it to your neighbor, and they can also apply online. So it's a well-being program, and it saves lives, and it's just wonderful for the people that are on it. We have clients that are in their early 50s to 100.
Wow.
So, and also, if you live with a spouse who has illness or dementia, you can be on the program as well. Okay, so share it with a friend. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually have a QR code here, and I'm starting, this is a regular thing that I'm doing. The information that we're putting out there, including our food sponsors, I want y'all to have immediate access to their website. So it's here, it's on our Facebook page, and she also left pamphlets out on the tables. So thank you again. And the hope is that there's going to be nothing left. Y'all are going to eat it all.
We will lock the door.
Pam's going to lock the door. Can't talk about that one. Can't do that now. All right, so I want to start out this evening because this is the time where kids are going back to school. And there's a really sweet trend. And I say that because I'm a mom, I'm abuela. I have 4 grandbabies. I got to do family pictures with them yesterday. And now it's a personal choice on my part. And as I talk about privacy tonight, I do not want anyone to take away condemnation from what it is that I'm going to say. I'm going to offer you a perspective to consider. That's it. I have made the personal decision, and especially because this is the world that I have been called to step into, I won't share my grandkids' faces online. I've learned too much, unfortunately. And the things that people who do have bad intentions towards children in general, when I learned the way that they are integrating AI technology into creating child sexual abuse material. We don't call it child porn anymore. Porn indicates or gives some sort of idea that there was some sort of consent. There is no consent when it comes to children. And so it's not child porn, it's child sexual abuse material. And the thought of my grandchildren who will never know a world without technology. Everybody in this room, we've lived through a lot. We drank out of water hoses, we weren't allowed in the house. They actually had to put a commercial on at 10 o'clock. Does anybody remember what it said? Do you know where your children are? Oh my goodness. Because they forgot they had kids. And so we've lived through a lot of different eras in our lifetime. Our grandchildren, the children that are growing up now, they will never know life without technology to some degree or another. And so if you post pictures of your kids and your grandkids, again, zero condemnation. I just want you to take some things into consideration given the world that we live in now. So as kids are going back to school, the trend is posting all of these adorable pictures. On the tables, I have given you a printout. It is actually from the Child Rescue Coalition. So the QR code is on the page that's on the printout on your tables. It's also up here. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. So, isn't she adorable? She's adorable. Let's look at this for a second. Tell me what you see. Interactive. Go ahead.
A lot of personal information.
Okay. What kind of personal information?
The school, what she likes to do, what her favorite thing is, her favorite color, all kinds of stuff.
Her birthday.
Yep.
That's got everything on there but her blood type and her parents' name. She doesn't need to have her home address on there because they know where she goes to school. They know her favorite color. They know her favorite food. They know how much she weighs. And to look at that, this is documentation for when she's a senior. I get it. I think like a mom. And I think that these kinds of things are so cute. But in this day and age, and it also, honestly, the kids were not terribly safe then either. But now in the digital age, where we have learned over the last couple of months that predators don't just go to playgrounds to look for their victims. They go online. They go online like Roblox, Minecraft, for children. But adults have their own vulnerabilities also, dating apps. Facebook makes that really easy. I hear they've got a Facebook dating thing, and that's terrifying. God bless anybody that's dating these days. So, little Morgan, as innocent as this looks, she now has become incredibly vulnerable. Can we all agree? Okay. Our news feeds fill up with smiling faces and backpacks that are almost bigger than the kids that are carrying them. Proud parents and those adorable first day of school signs. And I just want you to pause for a minute and think about the privacy that your child doesn't get to experience fully once their information, more than just their face, is posted online. So that's little Morgan. Okay. Next we've got these two boys. Now, tell me what you see.
Future.
Yeah? Right? They got their teachers' names on there. This one wants to be a golfer when he grows up. This one wants to be a doctor. So instead of looking at Jack and Gavin like parents or caregivers, I'm going to ask you to try to do something that I'm going to assume that would be very uncomfortable for all of you to do, assuming that we have no predators of any kind in the room. I want you to look at these boys through the eyes of someone who's got bad intentions. How do you feel? Just sitting with that, with looking at the picture slightly different. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel comfortable. Now, I'm sure that there's somebody that maybe even in this room, maybe on Facebook, because we are live right now. It's going to go on YouTube. Somebody's probably going to say, Angel, stop it with your fear-mongering. Quit it. We don't want to hear that. I don't think that it's right that you would talk about things that make people scared until your child goes missing. That is the unfortunate thing about cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is like hugging a turd. Think about it. I mean, it might be yours, but it's stinky and doesn't travel well. It doesn't matter to a person until it happens to them. And then all of a sudden, it's not a turd anymore. Now all of a sudden, it's a panic. Has anybody ever been in no, we're really going to date each other, Kmart? Back when Kmart was a thing. Or shoot, even Walmart, it doesn't matter. I say Kmart because, and lost your kid because they thought it was fun to hide in the clothes. Oh my gosh. The moments of terror. You know what I started doing with my kids? Because I knew that those little guys, they can move so fast when their legs are that short. How do they do that? We would go straight to where the helium balloons were, and I would take a helium balloon and I would attach it to them. Because they usually were in some sort of suspenders, kind of, like the overalls. And so I would loop that into the back of their clothes. And if they got away from me, I'm looking up. Kind of like my husband. I can see him everywhere he is because he's so tall. And he can't find me. He threatens to put a balloon on me all the time. But I did. I for real did. I did that with my kids. And people would laugh at me. And I'm like, have you ever felt the panic of looking around and they were right there and they're not there anymore? It didn't take much time at all with this second picture to start identifying things quickly. And then we got uncomfortable for a second, not looking at these boys as somebody's children, somebody's precious sons that are going to grow up someday to maybe be a doctor, maybe be a golfer. But looking at them through the notion of someone who has bad intentions. That's everywhere we go. And you can call it fear-mongering if you want to. I call it awareness. I call it bringing it from way back here to up here. Not so you can constantly be thinking about it and never take a break from thinking about it, but when you do go into Ross or into Walmart or posting pictures of your children online, you're going to remember these words. And it's just going to make you think about exactly what it is you're going to share. Because sharing that, once it is on the internet, guess what? You don't own it anymore. It's out there. You can pull it down, absolutely. But if somebody's taking screenshots, that now belongs to them. Now, Sterlington Sheriff's Department, I feel like they did a pretty good job. My friend Alyssa shared this with me. And so instead of telling you all about how little Meredith Burlew is in 2nd grade and she's in Miss Johnson's class and she's standing in front of the school that she's going to, don't do that. This is okay. This is much better. It's her first day of school. It doesn't tell you what grade she's in. Is that really important for everybody to know what grade that the child is in? Do you have to know a child's first and last name? Is it important to put that kind of information out on social media? I mean, that's up to you to decide. But I'm telling you that in this day and age, it's not exactly safe. And it's a perspective that I want you to take into consideration as you move about with your family, your kids, as a caregiver, and whatnot. The other thing that I want to talk to you about is bus stops. Anybody here got kids that go to the bus? Okay. Ooh. I would like to say thank you, by the way, for law enforcement being in the room. Lieutenant O'Brien, by the way, Special Agent Heiser, thank you. I appreciate you being here too. So we've got one kid, or one parent represented here in the room who rides the bus. I've been told by other people that live in other states that Florida is wild about how the busing system is not really used as much. People drive their kids to school, nothing wrong with that, until you're in the bus lane or in the child pickup lane. But let's look at this picture for a minute. Tell me what you see.
No parents.
No parents. What else? Got some well-behaved kids here. They're all just kind of standing in a line like, oh, there's the bus gate. What else? Let me scoot out of the way so you can see the whole picture. Say that again? That could be, yeah. There's a vehicle. There is someone sitting in it.
There's a sign saying where the bus stop is.
Correct. Now, look, it's in a really dense area. Nice looking houses. Lots of other vehicles around. Yet, this one seems a little bit out of place, maybe. Now, maybe that's a parent sitting in the car. Maybe it's not. But the point is there's no adult to be seen regarding these kids in this picture. And I will tell you, as I drive to and fro in the mornings and I get stuck in the bus traffic, this is very common. I see so many children of all ages in a bus stop and not one single adult. As a matter of fact, on Mariner, outside of a really nice area, I'm not going to name it, but it's got nice high stone walls, and it's a really nice community on the other side of the stone wall, and there's probably 25 kids that are right out there on County Line Road, not County Line, on Mariner. People flying by, and there's like 25, maybe even 30 kids of all ages, and I have yet to see an adult out there with them, and this is going on a couple of years now. I would like to think that this is a room full of people that have a heart for people, that it doesn't have to be your child for you to care. This is just something that I want you to take note of. And as you're driving in the mornings, in the afternoons, and now you're going to be paying attention because maybe you did kind of before, but now you really will because it's going to be top of mind because this is what we're talking about. And look around, and you'll be able to see that there's not a lot of parents that are either there with their kids to put them on the bus or there to receive them once they get off. And this, of course, creates a vulnerability for these children for all kinds of things, trafficking being one of them. Does anyone have any questions or have something that they would like to add before I move on? Scott?
When you go to make those posts, one way to think about it in your head is when you're deciding what information you're going to put out there, if a stranger were to walk up to you and tell you those things about your child, how would you react to that? If they came up to you and told you, hey, I heard Zach is starting second grade, and somebody you didn't know, heard Zach's starting second grade in Mrs. Wilson's class tomorrow. Does he still like pizza? Does he still want to be a golfer when he grows up?
Oof.
If you would not be comfortable with a perfect stranger coming up and saying those things to you about your child, don't put the information out there.
That's a solid. Anybody else? No? Okay. So, these are things to consider. And again, if you want to take pictures of this, share them with friends of yours, completely fine. When you're putting pictures online, think before you share. Turn off location sharing. If y'all don't know how to do that, where that's found in your settings, myself or Scott, we would be happy to show you where that is so you can turn it on and turn it off at will. Avoid real-time posting, but also when you go on vacation, that's a good one to consider as well. That way the thieves don't know, oh, he's out of town, I'm gonna rob him blind. Be mindful of identifying details, again, first and last name, the school they go to, the teacher's name, things like that. And check your privacy settings. For bus stops, avoid posting bus stop pictures. When I read that, I was just like, yeah, but mom is gonna want, this is a sweet thing to document. It's not exactly necessary when you're thinking of privacy and safety for your child. Your 6-year-old doesn't have your strength, your room awareness, the thought patterns that we have as adults. They're having fun. This is life. It's our job to protect them. They shouldn't have to worry about who's around them because we didn't do our jobs as caregivers. Again, I say that with love, but I say it with truth. Don't share your child's route or schedule. I actually saw someone last year, and it was wild. Somebody had posted in one of our Brooksville groups, they could not get their child off the bus stop and wanted to know if anybody could go there and pick their kid up from when they got off the bus. It was wide open. Anybody, will you please go get my kid? This is the button, shared sensitive information. And I'm like, this has got to be a joke. No. Teach your child situational awareness. Man, that's a big one. I was at a 4th of July party, and a friend of mine, we were talking about human trafficking. I'm really hoping he's going to be able to come to one of our meetings. And he said, Angel, watch this. And he did this weird little whistle. And it was loud, and it was very distinct. Nobody turned their heads except his kids. They immediately popped up like little meerkats. And he's like, that's what people need to do. And I was like, I might have to have you come and do a demonstration, because that's not a bad idea. When my kids were little, I was like, Ricky, say boo, boo. That worked, but not for the purposes of what we're talking about. I just wanted to be able to find them. But teach your children situational awareness. Have a code word. Have a code something that only you and your child know. And if the person doesn't get it right, then it's all wrong. Know your child's digital footprint. That's going to be controlled by you. It's the things that you post. It's the things that you allow other people to post, including the school. Now there's an opt-out form with schools. You can hold the school more responsible for the content that they share that has your child's face in it. You might be completely okay with it, and if that is your decision, it's fine to do. But at least be aware of it and know that you've got some deciding power as a parent. Again, I just said have a password and know thy neighbor, especially if your child is riding the bus. Know within at least a 1/4 mile radius of their bus stop where the registered sex offenders and the predators are. Just to be aware, just to keep your child safe. Take every measure to make them safe. Yes, sir.
Going back to that picture of the bus stop there's one other thing that always galls me, I guess, is luckily it's daylight there. I mean, you can see what's around and everything. I go by these bus stops, and there's 1 or 2 kids out there, and it's pitch black,
Yeah.
and there's no one around.
It's true.
So that's even more dangerous. I mean, that picture was kind of forgiving, because there's 4 kids in there watching each other. But what I see out there all the time, it's like anybody can hide in bushes, anybody can do anything. I mean, what the darkness is shelter all about. So
That's true.
I don't know how to get around that, but I think these schools, a lot of them, especially the younger kids, they're starting way too early when it's dark like that. Just my 2 cents.
2 very shiny cents. Thank you for sharing. Okay, does anybody else have any questions before we move on? Okay. So next up, I would like to invite Scott to come up. You are going to be talking about parental controls. We wanted to try to keep this kind of as a cohesive, fluid presentation for all of y'all tonight. So just touch the screen.
Good evening, everybody. Okay, there we go. I'm talking tonight a little bit about content filtering, or excuse me, about parental controls in general. So parental controls, when we talk about them, there's two main forms that takes. One is content filtering and the other is actually monitoring. With content filtering, we're talking about things that restrict where they can go and what they can do. Usually these are done based on some kind of a category. Usually whatever service you're using is going to have websites, apps, that kind of stuff designated into certain categories. It might be social media or adult or gambling or weapons or arts and crafts, however they're categorized, and then you are going to go in and filter those out based on those categories. Now you can do that either at the network level, which would be at within your router, or you can do that at the device level, whether it be a laptop or a tablet or a phone or what have you. You can do normally these are done with websites, but you can, depending on the device, you can sometimes restrict apps themselves too. And that's important because while you may go in and block Facebook.com, so they can't get to the website, the Facebook app may still work because it runs on a different protocol. When you're doing it at the network level, this is someplace like a school, business, that kind of thing, it's going to apply to every device on that network. So those are really good for organizations who want to control what people can do on their site. I work with a couple of schools where we handle all the content filtering, so the kids can't get to Facebook. The kids, maybe the administration has a separate network that they can get on and they can get to some things, but we lock down the student networks. And then when you're doing it at the device level, say on their phone, on their tablet, or on their laptop, that's when you can actually get, so at those broad network level restrictions, you kind of want to set them, because that's going to affect everybody who's on that network. When you have device level restrictions, you can get a lot more granular and tailored to specifically what do I want to allow this specific person, because you may have more than one child. You may have a 10-year-old and a 17-year-old, and you're going to want different restrictions on those two. And so that at the device level, it gives you that ability to tailor it a lot more specifically, and also depending on the particular service you're using, they may or may not be able to send you alerts for failed attempts. So if you have gambling sites blocked and somebody tries to get to a gambling site, it may send you an alert that says, hey, we stopped somebody from trying to get to NFLBet.com or whatever that site may be. And then you can also usually do them on a schedule. Alternatively, we have monitoring. Now where content filtering looks at where they can go and what they can do, monitoring determines what they can do once they get there. This is what's looking at actual behavior rather than just restricting what they can get at. And it's going to generate alerts based on whatever set of criteria you have built into there for triggers. It may be, generally these are going to be things like keywords. So it's going to search through, if you have their Facebook, their YouTube, their Discord, their Roblox, all connected into this whatever monitoring service you're using, it's going to look for things like, do they mention drugs? Do they mention medicine? Do they mention anything to have to do with any kind of adult content or weapons or anything else? And it's going to alert you based on that. It's generally not going to block those things. It is just going to let you know what is being done. Now these are great, but they also, because it's working directly in those apps, we have to integrate it directly to those apps. So it's only going to work on apps that it has an integration for. So when you're looking around, depending on what service you're going to use, you need to look at what the integrations are that it has and compare that to what your child or whoever you're trying to monitor is actually using. Usually they have a lot of predetermined triggers. Like I said, depending on what the service is, they'll have, most of them have a lot of pre-built things in there that are usually pretty good as a baseline, then you can fine tune it from there. The two that I tend to use the most is Microsoft Family Safety and Bark. So I have a 13-year-old. We have Microsoft Family Safety set up on his laptop that we got him for school a couple years ago. And when it was time to get him a phone, we got him a Bark phone. Now these do a little bit of different things. Microsoft Family Safety does have the benefit that it is free, but it is focused more on filtering than it is on monitoring. So I can set screen time, I can set what apps can be used for how long during what times of the day, so that we know that he's not getting onto Roblox at 2 in the morning because he can only use it for 3 hours and only between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. So you can do that kind of stuff, and it works at the account level. So when you set it up, it's going to follow his Microsoft. So if he only has, say you have a restriction on there that he's not allowed to use chat, and he's on his computer, and he goes over and logs into their Xbox. It's that same account, so it is going to include those same restrictions regardless of what device he's on, assuming he is signed in with that Microsoft account. Bark, on the other hand, Bark is subscription based, and depending on the plan, the subscription can vary fairly significantly. But it is more geared towards monitoring. Now, where they will both, with most services, they're usually geared more towards one, but they will still work on the other. So whereas Microsoft Family Safety is geared more towards content filtering and restrictions, it does have some monitoring. You know, we will get alerts depending on what he has typed into a search engine. Bark is built more for monitoring. So when you get them a Bark, or you install Bark on their iPhone or their tablet or their device, you're going to link all of their apps that they're going to sign into, and you're going to sign into those apps through that Bark interface, and it is going to watch and trigger on keywords everything that goes through there. Like I said, it's only going to work on apps that have that integration, but it is a really good one. It's what I decided to go with. My son takes medicine at 7 o'clock every night, and at 7 o'clock, we're going to send him a text that'll say, hey, take your meds. And at 7:02, we're going to get a message from Bark that says, there was a text message about drug use.
Wow.
Yeah.
It does. It's hilarious.
You will get some false positives off of Bark. I would rather have 100 false positives than 1 false negative. And it does, and it's nice because, you know, we allowed him on Discord eventually, but because he is signed into it on his phone, because it's in that account, if he's chatting something in Discord on his computer, on his laptop, because it is still within that account, it is still going to trigger. So it's going to monitor everything that goes through that, any of those linked accounts. And really the biggest thing when you go to set up any kind of parental controls is to plan it out ahead of time. Most of these require, because you're going to have to integrate with whatever application, whatever website they're going to. Some of these you have to create the account certain ways. So like for Microsoft Family Safety, you create your account, you make sure you have a Microsoft account, and then you go into Microsoft Family Safety and you sign your kids up to it, or create a Microsoft account for your child. Discord, again, you have to have a parental account, and then you create the child account and link it to it. So make sure that you're planning these things out ahead of time. If you have any questions at all, my cards are on the table, or reach out to me after the meeting.
That was awesome. I really wish that I would have had some of these things available when my kids were younger, because they thought that I was the meanest mom ever and let them do anything. If one was grounded, Nobody's going anywhere. They had a phone, but if one of them was grounded, give me the phone, and no, you're sorry. Maybe y'all should help be a good sister, be a good brother, monitor one another. But these are pretty good. I see Tim Tebow a lot with the accolades for Bark. I have a lot of respect for Tim Tebow. It is my current ambition. Tim, if you're watching, we would like to invite you to one of our monthly awareness meetings. That would be wonderful to have you here in Hernando County talking about all of the things that you talk about and how they apply here. Okay, so next up, we have Alyssa. Alyssa, y'all, most of you know that she was Warrior 321's very first intern, and then she decided that she was going to stay on board with us. So she's going to be talking with you. Listen, this one is going to be great because I had no idea how a bill becomes law. Anybody else? You don't count. You don't count. Okay, well, I had no idea, so I'm very much looking forward to this. Again, this is a QR code. This is going to give you a really good pictorial on what she's going to be explaining. Thank you, Alyssa.
Hey everyone, thank you for coming out again. So today, I know it seems that you're probably looking at this and it's like, this is probably going to be the most boring presentation. But there's a reason why I'm going over this. As all, we want more bills to be passed that protect our children and hold those who are buying or are trafficking those anywhere, whether it's an adult or a child, to be held accountable. Well, there's parts where we're not understanding why a bill didn't get passed. Where is it happening? Why are we getting to one certain spot and then it's just gone? So I thought that it would be great to go over it, especially since we've got November elections coming up. Let's pay attention to what's going on in our community. Let's put forward this knowledge and pay it forward to the next person just so that we can go over that. So, to start, how it starts. So, you have to have an idea, whether that is a legislator, whether that is a group or a person who comes up with the idea for the bill. Then, once you do that, a representative from the House of Representatives and a senator, they both need to file a bill with the same purpose. So, for example, the capital punishment bill. That one was specifically for if you traffic or buy or have sex with a child, 12 and under, you are eligible for the death penalty. That was one that is now passed if you did not know. So, let's say we have a senator who calls it capital punishment and one of them calls it death penalty. Okay, same purpose. Now, they will both file it with the chamber secretary or the clerk up in Tallahassee. A number is given, so I don't remember the bill off the top of my head, the exact number, but we can go HB 111 and an SB, which stands for House Bill and Senate Bill, and you put the numbers behind it, and that is what it is called for that year. Next, it'll go to the committees. So the Senate President or the House Speaker will send that bill to one or more specialized committees. The bills are then put on the calendar for those committees on certain dates. The chair of the committee or committees that this bill has gone to, they will then decide which bills on the calendar are going to be discussed. Let's say we have a chair, the committee who doesn't really care about that issue. It's going to die, and it'll say died on second reading calendar. Put that into perspective when you're looking at things, especially hint, hint, wink, wink, when my research comes out. When you see a bill that you're like, why didn't this go through? And you see that it died in this committee on the second reading, that's what that means. That's frustrating. How many times I've seen that, and it's just dying because it was never put on the calendar in the first place. That constantly is happening with our buyer bills, holding those accountable, just to keep in mind. So, they will debate. If they do put it on the calendar, they will debate. They will field testimonies. For example, I testified on that capital punishment bill on that day before they decided to either pass it and go on to the next committee or not. then they will either vote to pass it, amend it, which amend means that you're adding something to it. So I know Taylor Yarkowski at that time was trying to add an amendment on it to where if, okay, you don't want the death penalty, well, we can add an amendment that you could be castrated instead. So then majority must vote for it to continue. So it's not a 70%, just has to be, it could be 6 to 5. Now that's passed, and either goes into the next committee, or it'll go somewhere else. Then, one of the bills from either the House side or the Senate side will substitute for the other, and that is going to be your main bill that they agree on. And now we're going to see if it will pass on both sides. It must pass on both sides. If it dies in one of the committees on one side, the bill is gone. You have to have it pass on both the House and the Senate for it to become a bill. So, let's say it's going to the House. It must pass in all committees for it to go to this step. The bill will go to the chamber floor in both the House and the Senate. It must go through 3 formal readings on that chamber floor for it to continue. Those in the chamber will discuss the bill. Afterwards, they will propose amendments, just like the castration, for example. And then the chamber will vote, and the majority vote will be the decision. Next, it'll go to the second chamber, and it's basically the same thing, but it's going to that opposite chamber. You'll go through a committee review, the 3 readings, and then the floor vote. So basically, copy and paste everything except for the first 2 steps. Now, if this chamber decides to change the bill, like they add an amendment on it that somebody else did not add as an amendment, or they wanted to change the wording in it, now both sides, the House and the Senate, need to agree on exactly what text they want put in that bill. And if they don't agree, it does not continue. So that's another place where we get a bill dying, is where they're not agreeing on that text that's going to be in that bill, and now it's never going to the governor. So, our Florida governor, right now it is Ron DeSantis. Once it is agreed upon, it becomes an act, and then it's brought to the governor. That governor, if it's in session, has 7 days to sign or veto the bill. 15 if the session is ended. What does session mean? Well, that means that we're still voting and we're still going through other bills that are going on. But if it's afterwards, then you get a little more time for the governor. If the governor does not sign or veto that bill, then it automatically, in that time frame, automatically comes into law. If the governor vetoes the bill, meaning that he does not agree that this bill should become law, then it has to go back to legislation. They have to have a 2/3 majority to override it from both the House and the Senate. So that's where it's not majority vote, it has to be 2/3, and that's where you get your percentages a little different. Any questions so far? I know I'm kind of like crash course in this.
This is just wild.
So I just want to preface before we go on to our special guest. I want to say that we need to make sure that we are not focusing on Republican and Democrat. I think that we all come here, we're all from different backgrounds. It does not matter what side we are at. What matters is that we're coming together as one to fight one cause. So yes, there might be a Republican who has done something or a Democrat who has done something that we don't agree on. But if they're here and they're just trying to make some change, I think that it's important that we look at that and that we're here to put ourselves together and unite as one instead of dividing like the rest of the country. Just keep that in mind. So hope you all have a great day. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Anybody learn anything tonight?
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Oh, you were just saying yes. Okay. For a next couple of minutes, I want to just take a little bit of a breather before we bring up our special guest. Listen, this is a heavy room. I get it. Every month, we're talking about difficult topics, and I am so appreciative of everybody coming and sitting and listening and pressing in and not zoning out. during this meeting. So for the next couple of minutes, if you want to go back up and grab some more refreshments, we're going to give it 2 minutes, and then we're going to have Mandy Simpkins come up. Okay? All right. Very, very happy to have a lady that I've known for a number of years. I've known her and her husband, met her in the networking world. And she's probably one of the sweetest, most genuine ladies I've had the occasion to get to know over the years. She has been a social worker for a long time. Her husband wooed her out of that space and brought her into his company. And she was the CEO for a while. And then she's like, I need to go back to my love. My love is not bugs. Bugs is what my husband loves. But her passion is children. And I know a lot of people that do what she does. I don't know a lot that speak with the kind of passion and dedication that Mandy Simpkins has. So Mandy, if you will please come up and talk to us about the vulnerabilities in children.
Okay, yes ma'am. Yes ma'am. Hello everyone, thank you for having me. As you said, I'm Mandy Simpkins. I am a social worker in the community for lots of years now. We're going on 13 years of social work within the community, and children are my bread and butter. I meet with kids on a regular basis, and my kids have all different vulnerabilities. We're going to talk about some of those vulnerabilities today and how they impact our families, because it's not just people that the risks are in every home. They affect everybody. And before we get started, I will introduce Trish. Trish is a facility dog. She is trained to work with children that have been affected by trafficking of any nature, anxieties, trauma. She is savvy with anxiety interruption, and her specialty is working with children. So we're glad to have her. She's pretty impeccable. Yes. So as we talked about, human trafficking can affect anyone. It's not just those that we assume would be vulnerable. What are some of those assumptions? And I'd like to hear from you all. When you think of somebody that you see that newspaper article of a child that's missing, and what is the first thing that goes through your head? I have my bias, I'll tell you. Anybody want to share theirs? First thing I think is, where's the parent?
Right.
Where's the parent? And it's not always the case. Is the parents are present. As Scott was sharing with us, Discord roadblocks are real. They're very real. And the children that I meet with on a daily basis are on those games, and they are having conversations with people that they do not know. And some of them will tell you they're adults, some of them will tell you they're children, and you just don't know. Of course, there's some life circumstances that affect vulnerabilities, and it's important that we do think of those, and the list is immense, immense. We're talking the obvious ones. They're accustomed to seeing domestic violence. They've been abused themselves. They've been sexually abused, they've been physically abused, they've been neglected. They are looking for a place to belong. I mean, we can think of all of our kids in this sense. We can think of many adults in these senses. We need to take into consideration mental health concerns, not just of those of the child or the teenager, but of the caregivers, of the neighbors. We talked earlier, I heard someone say about knowing thy neighbor. Know thy neighbor. You are new to a subdivision, you are fresh meat, and your kid is as well, and you need to be paying attention. And that comes with any of the vulnerabilities, is that the predators are looking for the vulnerabilities. They're looking for someone that maybe just moved into a new subdivision. Perhaps they're having financial hardships. Perhaps they can offer them a job. Maybe they can have their kid help around a house and give some money that way. Kids who feel, you might not be telling your child that we're having financial problems at home, but kids know. Kids know, and if they feel that they need to bring something to the table, they're going to. they're going to. It's not just your runaway children that are being trafficked. It is your kids that want to help their families, that know their families, that we also need to talk about, and I hate to say it, we mentioned it again earlier, Facebook dating, dating in general. You're inviting strangers into your life. Maybe not into your home, but they're seeing your vehicle that you're showing up to dates on. They're hearing you pull up in a minivan and knowing that there's a kid, maybe in a car seat, maybe not. The predators are watching. They're watching, and they know way more than you would think. They learn behaviors, they learn routines, they ask you certain questions over the phone or on your whatever communication device to get to know you. That's the point of dating, right? Get to know the person, get to know their family. Is this something that we want to continue with? Please be vigilant, ask questions, find out that you know somebody in common, you ask questions and you dig further. And if you have the red flag, that gut intuition, pay attention. Pay attention and keep your children out of your dating life. No one needs to know that you have children. That is not something that needs to be talked about in the first couple of months of a just dating relationship. It is very important that you're mindful of that. Other things that become a risk is parental substance misuse. Children pick that up. That if they're knowing that you're drinking rather than hanging out with them or asking them questions, or that you're following up on their Bark account and they know if you're not doing those things. Kids are smart and they're paying attention, just like those predators, to more than you know about. So the families within the justice system, there's an extra vulnerability there. Foster care involvement, previous exploitation. And then we also need to speak about our immigrants. English as a second language is definitely a risk. It puts you in a vulnerability, and predators certainly realize that. They know if mom is not speaking English properly, or if dad is not speaking English properly, or to the extent that they can maneuver conversations for their gain. So we need to be mindful of that and really watch out for our neighbors the best we can, that if they are at a certain risk and you see that. So limited access to education is going to be a risk as well. And then we have to talk about the online gaming and the grooming that happens within these systems. I talked about the children that I meet with on a regular basis are all on Roblox, they're all on Discord. Mom doesn't know, dad doesn't know, they've blocked it, they figured out a way to get around it. They're having conversations with people that we don't know, but the grooming is real and it is happening. And just because they are speaking to, let's say they are speaking to a teenager, they're speaking to someone the same age, who's to say that that teenager is not speaking to a predator outside of there and moving that information over, asking those same questions to them, regurgitating that information to another adult perhaps, or even keeping it for themselves. Children can hurt children, and we need to be mindful and paying attention. So we're not going to post details on the internet. I know we just saw a presentation on this. I'm going to reinforce it. People use this information to build rapport with your children. They will see that you're going on vacation. You just came home from vacation. Let me talk to your kid about that. You had a great time water skiing. Let me take you water skiing. I have this great place on the lake. Come on over. Bring your friends. It'll be great. Super fun. So, and then we don't want to share the information with lots of new friends. And I know this is a room of networkers. I'm going to caution you to even share lots of details with your new networking friends. Everybody comes from their own walk of life. These people are not vetted, and you need to be mindful of your children. We talked about putting pictures on Facebook, putting pictures on your computer screen when you're walking into these meetings with a group of people you don't know. Having your children on your cell phone screen. If you don't want your picture on Facebook, don't put it on your cell phone screen. Strangers see that. Strangers see that, and we need to be mindful of that. So I wouldn't be a social worker unless I were to speak about how to educate families about this. So the social worker is not going to come in and give you all of this big list of warning signs without giving you the resources to help you help those that you love. Help those that are around you. Help those within the community that you see are vulnerable. The people in this room are educated on this subject. You're here, you're listening, you have an interest in this, you have an interest to stop this. The people that are not in this room are at a higher vulnerability risk. Their children are at a higher risk. Spread the word and watch out for your neighbors. If you are the good, then be the good in every room that you walk into. And be paying attention. So we're going to learn warning signs. Warning signs, and you're going to discuss them with every member in your household. What if you have one child that you've adopted from foster care, and you have your birth child? Are both of them at the same risk? You need to be talking to everybody. You need to be talking to everybody, because everyone is at risk. Adults are at risk. I'm here talking about children at risk, but adults are at risk as well. We need to be talking to everybody. We need to be watching for warning signs. We need to be looking for changes in behavior. Maybe they're having absences in school that are unexplained. Those are pretty obvious things that say that your kid something's wrong, right? We all know the obvious warning signs, but what about the ones where, Mom, I'm just tired. I'm going to stay in my room a little bit longer today. I've come home from school and I'm just really tired. I'm going to go lay down. And this starts to become 2 days. You see it maybe a couple times a week. Please start asking questions. Please start asking questions. And not just from a human trafficking standpoint, go down the laundry list. Have we started using drugs? Are we hanging out with new friends? Are we talking to people online? Are we being vulnerable at the bus stop? Are these things happening to you? Because your children are most likely not going to come home and tell you every last thing. We hope they do. We encourage that within the home, right? We do. The people in this room do. Does everyone? No. We have to do the parenting for our child with other things that affect this, that come into play. So helping children recognize manipulation, coercion, unhealthy relationships. Have these conversations. Please have conversations with your children on how to get out of a sticky situation. Maybe they do have somebody who says, hey, I really like the way you play this game. Let's go talk on whatever it's called, the DMs. And then, oh, you know what, this isn't working. Let's move to text message. Let's move to Facebook Messenger. Let's move to something more private. Give your children, let them practice saying no. Practice saying no. Give them things that they can say. Give your grandchildren suggestions. They're all going to roll their eyes at you. Say it anyway. Say it again. Say it again. And say it louder. And continue saying it. And continue having these conversations with your kids, with your grandchildren, with the neighbor kid who hangs out with cookies. Because as they mature, their mentality changes and they're going to hear you. So please say it. Teach children healthy boundaries. Again, to every child, not just to those at risk. Teach them the healthy boundaries. Encourage children and teens to trust their instincts. We have our God-given intuition for a reason. Use it. Use it. And teach your kids that it's okay to use it and to follow that and to come to you for help. We'll talk again about keeping the conversations at home, the flow open, having conversations, the people you trust, loved ones, friends that are close to you, have them have conversations with the kids. Keep it coming from every angle and repetitive. Let these kids hear you when they need to be hearing you. Teach them that no one should pressure them for photos, for sexual favors, for labor. You're a child. Nobody should be asking you for those things. Nobody should be asking you for those things. And let your kids know that that is not appropriate. It is not okay. And again, more importantly, how to say no safely. They do not need to meet this person face to face to tell them no. If it's in their gut, they need to be saying no from the very beginning, and you, as their caregiver, it is your responsibility to help them do this and to help them feel safe in doing this. Reinforce that they can trust who their trusted adults are. My daughter is 17, going on 18, and sometimes it's not me she wants to come to. Sometimes it's not me. And Angela's received a phone call one night like, hey, I need you to talk to this kid. She has questions that I don't know the answer to. Help me. We have friends. My husband's friends. We have friends that we go to that are trusted adults. And our kids know who those people are. How do you prevent human trafficking in your home? We just talked about a bunch of ways that you could help somebody who's vulnerable, and I'll keep saying talk frequently with children and adults. Talk to them about their friends, their activities, their online usage, online usage, online usage, online usage. Talk about it constantly, please. Create a home environment where they all feel safe, and teach them that traffickers often build trust before they exploit someone. It is not, we all know Ted Bundy. Decades later, we still go back to that. And it's not going to be the creepy person on the street that's going to necessarily snatch your kid and run. It's going to be somebody that has learned your behaviors, that has learned your life, has learned different. Of course, there could be the creepy person that snatches your kid. But be mindful of, I'm teaching you to be mindful of those that you invite into your life. Be mindful of them. Ask questions. Pay attention. Monitor your online activity. Know which apps, games, social media platforms your child uses. Make a fake account if you need to, but you need to be paying attention and knowing what these kids are doing on there. To pay attention to your own kid. Don't make a fake account and pay attention to others. Please. Please. But if your kid's not going to Facebook friend you, either A, they don't have Facebook and you get with Scott on how to prevent it, or B, you are a friend of theirs and you're paying attention to what they're posting and what they're saying, but you've got to pay attention to your children. It sounds so obvious, but you have to. And as they get older, it's easy to say that they're okay on their own, but you need to stay vigilant. Be alert with online relationships for people that, just be aware of online relationships that your children might be forming. Friendships. Especially during COVID, we saw a lot of people that were making friendships with people in different countries. How often do we hear, well, they live in Canada, it's no big deal. It's a big deal. It is a big deal. The warning signs we talked about, we want to be looking about sudden gifts, money that just appears for your kids. Maybe your kid just gets this super fly new hat and shoes. Where is it coming from? Your friend from Canada sending you shoes. This is not okay. This is not okay. We need to be paying attention. Your kids might think it's super awesome. Well, there's Venmoing me. They don't have any information. It's just Venmo. That's a Scott conversation. There's information out there. So sudden gifts, money, expensive items, even inexpensive items, secretive behavior. Or if your kids are starting to have secretive behavior, if they're starting to get into maybe controlling relationships within their school setting, pay attention to their school setting. Speak to their teachers. Please speak to their teachers. Speak to their school social worker. Have your kid involved. If they're not involved, ask why. Why kids do not walk into they are not always the same kid at school that they are at home. And we need to be paying attention to that. And we need to recognize that Susie is not always perfect. And maybe when Susie is put in an environment where she has a lot of pressure on her, like school, and she feels trapped, like school, maybe we're having some behaviors that are showing where at home we can avoid them. At home we're doing our chores, we're doing homework, we're playing with the dog, we're hanging out with family, we're busy, 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 busy. Please ask your teachers if you see any behaviors that are a change for your child, that's going to be the first one. Usually your school's going to know ahead of time that, hey, you know what, we do see that behavior, and I'm really glad you're talking about it, and in addition to her sleeping in school, we're also seeing that she's using the restroom more frequently. We're noticing that maybe she's more agitated with her friends. These are all risks for your child suffering trauma, suffering from somebody exploiting them. It could be an array of things, but this is your red flag that I'm asking you all to pay attention to. Your children pay attention to it, you pay attention to it, and ask questions. We talked about unexplained absences, isolation from family and friends. Signs of fear, anxiety, depression, physical injuries. Are we hurting ourselves? Are we allowing other people to hurt us? Are we looking for that impact? Are we starting the impact? Are we asking for a fight? Are we feeling so agitated within ourselves, so frustrated that I can't say no to somebody out here, so I'm picking a fight with somebody that I feel comfortable with? And I'm doing this over and over again. Pay attention, ask questions. All of these seem harmless, and I pray that they continue to be harmless. But sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're not. One of the vulnerabilities that I did not discuss yet, and it is a large one that I'm sure our deputies would attest to, that we are on US 19. This is a long, dark road to wherever you want to go. There are motels, there are tiny gas stations, there are little people, there are little to no people on this road. We have international airports. We have ports where we have ships coming in and out. We have the internet. Be vigilant. Be vigilant. Our area, all of our kids are susceptible to having somebody approach them at some point in their lives with an ill intent. And we need to be mindful of that and teaching them that. We also want to be paying attention. Maybe their verbiage is changing. We have a lot of kids where I work that they just come in and they just start their verbiage changes. Well, why is that? Why is that? Did we just learn this much? We finally paid attention in English class and now we're having new dialect? No, we're speaking to adults. We're speaking to adults, and it's not an adult that we typically pay attention to. That it's not our mom, it's not our cousin, it's not grandma. We're talking to somebody new. And I ask very quickly, are we talking to somebody on the internet? The answer is more than often yes. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Knowing where to get help. Again, I wouldn't be a social worker if I just came up here and talked about all the vulnerabilities, but it's about how to find the help. Where do you go? If you are feeling like you resonated, like you know a child, you know somebody, a neighbor, you know someone who's vulnerable, who fit in one of the many, many risks that we just discussed, what do you do? What do you do? Do you just pray for them and walk away? Still pray for them, but don't walk away. Don't walk away. Be talking to somebody. If you feel like you need to be calling 911, do it. Do it. Please do it. If you truly feel that something could be that this child, this person is at risk and you need immediate help, dial 911. You can contact the National Human Trafficking Line. And I have that phone number. I'm sure brochures here have the phone number. The Warrior 321 I checked today has the phone number. Go. Use it. Speak to them. They will help connect you with deputies and law enforcement. They will help you to navigate this. They will also help you with navigating the resources within the community to help support that person, to support the caregiver that just found out, hey, as a neighbor, I'm coming up to you concerned. It may or may not go well. Come kindly. I'm concerned. I saw your child at the bus stop speaking to an older adult the other day, and I just wanted to let you know that they're driving this vehicle. Maybe this is a license plate number, maybe it's not. This is what the person looked like. Heck, here's a picture. I'm bringing this to you. I'm concerned. Please pay attention. The National Human Trafficking Hotline and the Florida Human Trafficking Hotline will help provide you with those resources. Warrior 321 will help provide you with those resources. Please call emergency services if it's needed, again, and do not ignore and walk away. Strong relationships is what is going to help your child, your loved ones stay safe. Strong relationships within the home, within the school and the home together. Communication, please. Communication with your student, with your child, with your grandchildren, with your loved ones, with the adults in the home. Let them know that these are the vulnerabilities. Please pay attention with me. You know, we do parenting, we've raised children, it takes a village. Incorporate that village, educate that village, watch out for loved ones, for your neighbors and your friends, and thank you so much for coming today to learn the vulnerabilities and how to help your loved ones. Do I have any questions? Perfect, thank you.
Thank you so much. Hi, Trish. That was eye-opening. But those of you that have been coming every month, this would be reinforcement for what you've heard as well. You know, there are a lot of carryovers with domestic violence and trafficking. I had the wonderful opportunity to be able to speak to a number of new and budding counselors in the mental health space this last week, and they all said trafficking sounds a whole lot like domestic violence. I can promise you something. As a person who has never been trafficked, okay, I'll bet you a quarter. You're not going to find a nice trafficker. You're not going to find somebody that's just only going to just woo their victim, their target, out of their life and into this new life, and there not be some level of violence, physical violence. My dad told me, who I find ironic because he was a master manipulator, God rest his soul. My dad told me that a really good abuser, this is so wild that he told me this, and I was very young. A really good abuser, if they're really good at it, they don't have to lift a finger. Because the psychological and the emotional trauma that they are able to impart onto their target or their victim it encompasses a person on a level on the inside that's hard to really put words to. I see, with speaking with some of the new counselors, you know, as they've been working on getting their licensing and everything, and they're able to do a lot of shadowing with the counselors and the mental health workers, and they have all said, oh my gosh, the things that the psychological warfare that these folks that have been in domestic violence situations is very much that the abusers are just like, why won't they leave? Why, you would think there's an open door. They live in a house with their abuser and the door is not locked. And it looks like they could just leave at any time they want to. Trafficking also happens that way as well in many situations. Doors open, you can leave anytime you want. Why don't they leave? How about let's ask a better question. Let's reframe that. Instead of, why doesn't she leave, or why doesn't he leave, maybe ask, what makes leaving feel not safe? You're going to get a better answer. You'll probably actually get an answer. Because why don't you leave sounds very condemning. They get enough of that. That's not a game that they're going to want to play. But if you were to ask someone, why is it not safe to go? That elicits a different response. You might actually be able to help them. So think about sometimes the conversations that you're having with your children. You know, why are you hanging out with that girl? She's dumb. You know, she says she doesn't X, Y, Z. And we teach our children with our own language how to be the defender of the underdog, even though that's not exactly the underdog, but now perception is that's the underdog. Think about the questions that you're asking your kids, your grandkids, family, as you're hanging out. better questions that actually get conversations going. Another thing that I want to bring up before we move on to the next portion of this is, with the pictures that a lot of the parents are taking, they might not be happening exactly in front of the school. I do see a lot of those. But where do you think most of these pictures are being taken? Right. And listen, we love to personalize our houses. We'll paint that door red or blue. We've got big, nice numbers. My husband's an electrical contractor, and he's like, gosh, I wish they had house numbers that were visible from Mars, so I could just easily identify the house when I get there. Some of the places have no numbers, but so many of these kids are taking pictures in front of their house with their house number, and then the location tag is on. Some parents lock their location and they actually name it on Google. So it's the Adkins house. And you can just click on the little pen, and now you know where the Adkins kid lives. So, has this been beneficial tonight?
Yeah.
Been good stuff? Okay, good deal. So I would like to welcome up, as I pull up my email, we have Hernando County Law Enforcement here, and I would like to give them the opportunity to come up and speak, and then we are also going to open the floor for some Q&A. If you have questions for our local law enforcement, this would be a great time. Okay, come on up. And I'd like for you, Lieutenant O'Brien, make introductions while I'm pulling up my email, please. And you got to stand over in the middle.
Gotcha. Hello, how's everybody doing? So I'm Mike O'Brien. I'm a lieutenant with the Sheriff's Office and with the Major Case Section. If you were at the meeting last month, I did a presentation on our spot check program and some aspects of our job, specifically what I do every day that kind of relates to human trafficking and our monitoring of sexual offenders in the county. So I gave some statistics last month, and if you want to go back and the Warrior 321 website, they had it all on YouTube. I just want to give a couple of updates on some things that we've done since I was here last. It's a couple of cases that we had that were somewhat relating to human trafficking and sexual abuse that we just released within the last week or so. One thing that Mandy brought up that is very concerning was that, a lot of the cases that we see that we are investigating currently have to do with that grooming. And that was, an offender that's basically getting into the life of that child, whether they know them as acquaintance or they're directly into the house as like a step parent or a step brother or sister or whatever the case may be. They have to wear them down, and have to get into their life slowly over time. And depending on the offender, depending on the suspect, it depends on how long that will take. But eventually they get what they want, at least they try to. Just a couple of cases that I wanted to bring up that I want to kind of highlight the work that we're doing at the Sheriff's Office, that some people are doing. Back earlier in July, we had a male by the name of Jeremy Gordon, 43-year-old male. He's actually from the state of Washington, so actually Spokane, Washington to be exact. He did 12 years in prison for sexual abuse of a child under 12 up there in Washington, and then got out on parole. He absconded from Washington and then ended up coming to Hernando County. So I don't know why they end up in Hernando County, but they end up in Hernando County. And we have a lot of that sometimes. But he had a warrant for absconding for a parole violation for that case, as well as a fail to register as a sexual offender up in Washington. So we had 2 warrants already, and our Special Investigations Unit, which is kind of like an undercover unit, they work a lot of street crimes, drugs, things like that, but they're pretty hybrid. Like, we'll use them to help us with operations and some things that we need a quick tactical response, and we'll send them in, and they'll help us out doing surveillance, unmarked cars, things like that. They just happened to see this guy driving and stopped him for an equipment violation. And he gave a false name when they stopped him, had no license. So me as a law enforcement officer, that obviously the red flags are coming up when I'm running a name and no record found. And they did a lot more investigation, a lot more digging. Obviously took him to jail for the driver's license violation because he had no license. And then we ended up running fingerprints, doing some investigation, figured out that he was here for several months, never registered as a sexual offender. So we obviously had the warrants from Washington. we ended up arresting him for failing to register here in Hernando County, and he's still sitting in our jail. So he's going to face local charges here. I mean, depending on the sentence and depending on the history of the suspect and, you know, how good of a case we have, and it's a good case, depending on how much he's time, but I would say about 5 years, give or take a year or two for that, and then he will obviously have to go back to Washington to face those charges. So that's up on our Facebook page now. The sheriff actually did a video the other day that we posted on our Facebook page. It was regarding a male named Christopher Sheldon that was that we arrested back in late June. I couldn't talk about that case last time I came here for obvious reasons. We were still working on some things, but the sheriff kind of went into like an 8-minute video. I would encourage you to watch it if you want a lot more information on it. But the nuts and bolts of it is we got a tip from the FBI that this subject was involved in like online chat forums, and what he was doing was he was having girls at his house, girls over 18, so young women, over at his house for parties, things like that. But he was slipping drugs into their drink and drugging them with GHB. So we ended up finding some videos that he was sharing on chat forums, and one of those was of an ex-girlfriend who we identified, and he obviously drugged her, committed sexual acts on her while she was drugged and unconscious. And we ended up establishing probable cause for a sexual battery while she was incapacitated. We got to the house. The body cam video is pulled up on our Facebook page, so you can watch it. When we went to the house to execute a search warrant, he came to the door with a gun. So we ended up taking him into custody, disarming him, and we ended up finding cocaine, some other drugs, laptops, some phones, things like that were still combing through. And we did get some digital evidence back. We were able to identify a second victim, and we were able to get in hold of her and then confirm with her, no, I didn't give him consent to do that. And she was unconscious as well. So we just arrested him recently for that case, and we're doing more follow-up on that, but we decided it was a good idea, best to wait a little bit to release that case, any information on it, but again, there's a lot more detail. The video is up on our Facebook page. So to kind of tie into that, I have a succession of speakers that are going to come at some point to kind of just give you a brief description of what they do. One of my coworkers here, Alicia Okendo, she's our victim advocate with the Sheriff's Office. She's going to share a little bit about what she does with our section, as well as like agency-wide, because she does work with every bit of the agency for us. So, Alicia.
Thank you. I'll get straight into it. All right, to give you a little bit about myself, my name's Alicia Oquendo, proud mom of a 13-year-old, engaged to my fiance who has 3 beautiful daughters. They live full-time with us, so it makes my house very, very busy. I earned my associate's degree in criminal justice, currently 10 credits away from completing my bachelor's in child development and family studies, finally. I've proudly served the Hernando County Sheriff's Office for the past 5 years. This October will be 10 years in law enforcement. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Awesome. Alrighty. What is a victim advocate? So as a victim advocate, my role is to help victims of a major crime navigate the criminal justice system while providing emotional support, crisis intervention, education, and resources. Most importantly, I strive to be a voice for the voiceless. Victim advocates help survivors by explaining the criminal justice process, providing crisis intervention, assisting with safety planning, connecting survivors with community resources, helping victims understand and exercise their rights. Alrighty. Human trafficking survivors often need far more than law enforcement intervention. Victim advocates can assist with emergency shelter, safe housing, food, clothing, basic necessities, medical care, forensic examinations, also known as a SANE exam, mental health counseling, protective orders, restraining orders, transportation assistance, employment, educational referrals, long-term case management. My goal is to help survivors regain safety, stability, and independence. Victim compensation. Victims may qualify for financial assistance through Florida Victim Compensation Program. A lot of this may include medical expenses, mental health counseling, lost wages, funeral expenses, relocation assistance, crime scene cleanup, disability and rehabilitation services. Victim advocates help survivors complete the application and gather required documents. Relocation assistance. For many survivors, HT, returning home isn't a safe option. Victim advocates can assist with emergency relocation, temporary hotel placement, shelter referrals, rental assistance when available, safety planning, or relocation. Alrighty, my next slide are some resources. You're more than welcome to take a photo. I actually do have them here as well. I can give you a card. And every interaction matters. As a victim advocate, we help survivors feel heard, feel believed, understand their rights, connect with resources, begin healing, and most importantly, find hope. Here's my contact information. If you ever need it, please reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That was a bonus. I didn't plan on having law enforcement be able to do a short presentation. There is something that I do want to share, going back into what Mandy had said. Oh, bear with me. There we go. There it is. So these are the contact, the phone numbers for NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and then the FDLE headquarters. Of course, we have our local law enforcement. Listen, if you feel like you have encountered someone that you think is being trafficked, we give you guys a lot of information every month. Why do we do that? Because we want it to be here, not somewhere back here. Because we want you to know thy neighbor, and we want you to also look out for one another. And so when you're seeing red flags, like what we have talked about, from the children's age into adulthood, I would rather you be wrong and make the call than second guess it and then leave. And that was a call that should have been made because it could have saved their life. I'd rather you call 911 and be wrong. Am I incorrect on that? I have law enforcement in the room. Have I said anything out of order, incorrect? Okay. I would rather you be wrong. If you think something is happening, it probably is. And that person needs help. So, does anyone have any questions for anyone who spoke tonight? We learned a lot. We've talked about privacy, specifically with your children going back to school. We have talked about parental controls on various devices. We have talked about how a bill becomes law. Blew my mind because I had no idea. And thank you so much for, I didn't realize that your official capacity was a victim's advocate for human trafficking. That's really great to know. And then, of course, Mandy, our guest speaker tonight. Does anyone have any questions for anyone that spoke? Yes, ma'am.
Are there any programs for children that are at risk, like a scared straight kind of thing?
Oh, I remember being scared straight, man. My dad took my stepbrother, up to Trenton in North Florida, and they took teenagers that were thinking that they was all big and bad, and they walked them through that prison, and they were allowed to, when I say put their hands on them, I don't mean like, but they would reach out the bars, and let me tell you what, my brother I don't even think he's ever gotten a speeding ticket. It scared him straight, and he was actually on a very bad path. We do not have that anymore.
I would like to answer that question if you don't mind.
Okay.
There are community resources available for children specifically that have been victimized. Is there a Scared Straight program? Maybe not necessarily, but when it comes to the risk of trafficking, education is going to scare them if they're listening to that. The best way to prevent, at least from the mental health standpoint of it, and the risk that I see, is the family communication, keeping close knits, paying attention, having those open dialect, open conversations, real conversations, asking questions and being prepared for those answers and being welcoming of those answers, especially when they're not ones that we want to hear. And giving those children a safe place an outlet to be able to have those conversations is really important. As far as a program that scares them straight, I'm not quite sure of.
Yeah.
All they've succeeded in doing is scaring the Jiminy's out of her about panel vans. Now she just points
Now she
out
just
every
thinks it's panel vans.
Like, there's one. It's not the point, just don't run away from me in the store.
Yeah.
Well, and be mindful of the panel vans. They are easy to swoop you into, and it is difficult.
There was the
for-
FedEx driver, was it FedEx? The recent case that was in another
in
state.
Texas,
Yeah.
yes, that was, and it is difficult for law enforcement to see inside of a carpeting van opposed to a sedan that's on the road. I would still be mindful of all of the risk, not just those, but I would embrace that.
I was just hoping
You
there was
need to
like
be mindful of your environment.
a program, like an episodic program or some kind of a YouTube video or something. It's like, because she's just not concerned enough and doesn't have situational awareness.
How old is she?
9 going.
Oh, I met your daughter.
30.
Okay, 9. Call me. Call me. We don't have when I say call me, I'm not saying that I am the alternative for a Scared Straight program. That is not my offering. My granddaughter might say differently.
Yeah, but her speaking to people that have, maybe
Yes.
there's YouTube videos out there of victims that are telling their stories. Elizabeth Smart.
Yeah.
JC Dugar. Listen to their stories. They're walking to the school bus. They're in their home asleep. It's real, and these are very public stories that might be beneficial to listen to the whole discovery of it, not just, you know.
You're in Pasco County, right?
Hernando.
Oh, you're in Hernando County? Oh, you know what? I bet you that if you were to speak to this wonderful man over here, that you might be able to facilitate a conversation between maybe one of the law enforcement that specializes in, well, it's law enforcement, so it really could be any of them, and talking with your child. Sometimes it could be that official capacity. Alicia, am I maybe?
I can step in there.
Yep.
You can take my business card and I can have a conversation. I have enough experience where sometimes they won't listen to mom, but I will repeat exactly what mom says, and for some reason they'll listen.
Yep.
So I don't mind having a small chat with her.
As a mom, I had a wingman, my best friend, and it'd make me mad as hell every time because she would say the exact same thing I said. My kids thought I was an idiot and they thought she was brilliant. But it worked. It worked. And so, setting pride aside, have a wingman as a friend, but please take Alicia's card. She would be somebody good to talk to you. Yes, it does. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what are the chances, probably very slim, working with the Hernando County education system, and getting this into the schools? I know when I was younger, quite a while ago, we used to have assemblies, and they would bring up important things that kids should learn about. I don't see that happening at all in any of our schools.
I'm going to defer that answer to Lieutenant O'Brien.
So I can answer that. I was the SRO lieutenant for about a year. That has to be facilitated through the Office of Student Services. So they have their own thing, but the kids get periodic material, especially in the beginning of the year. They get a program called Know the Law. So pretty much like they learn about what's going to get them in trouble. But when I was there, we had a big emphasis on written threats. So like people posting stuff on Snapchat and social media, like, hey, I'm gonna bomb the school tomorrow thinking it's a joke, and then no, you just committed a second-degree felony.
Yeah.
So,
And you're 10.
and then they walk out in handcuffs and wondering what's going on. Well, sorry, you violated Florida statutes. But the SROs, they present material like that too.
Okay.
But I was in contact with some people that, like from the outside, that wanted to come in and do things like that, but they have to be vetted. And because we don't know what kind of material they're gonna present, they don't know what intentions they have. Some of them are nonprofit, some of them are for-profit, and they want money, and the school system, they don't have the money to pay speakers to come in and do that. So it's kind of, they leave it on the guidance counselors, the people that are already there, to kind of push that material through. And the guidance counselors, a lot of them are trained in all this stuff too.
Even if there was, like you said, you got the information of what would get them in trouble.
Yeah.
Even if there was some kind of information that would say, if you notice any of these things, or
Yeah.
if you're contacted or. If
Well, they have a reporting system too, so they're mandated by law to, the administration has to do it within a certain amount of time before the year, so day one, I think they have like 10 days to push out information about Fortify Florida. Fortify Florida is like an online tip submission system for kids. A lot of times we were like, hey, so-and-so has a weed pen in their backpack. We get that, but a lot of times we get some things back that are really concerning. We made some really good cases on that. So we've had a couple of diamonds in the rough with those, but most of them are, people telling on somebody with tips, but that's a way that the kids know they have the ability, and there's signs posted all over these schools with that, and they have different things that you can report. And I want to say that if somebody is, a victim of abuse or something like that, they use that site to report it, and we get it right away, and we send people out to go take care of it.
I can tell you that Warrior does have endeavors to that degree. We want to be able to get into these school systems and be able to create age-appropriate presentations, going as young, like K through 12. And there can be presentations that are tailored specifically for that age group. Kelly, I actually want to work with you on this. Where am I at, as far as like on the football field? We're not even close to the halfway, or whatever that's called. Yeah. So, but now that you've brought that up as a topic, that's something that I want to pin for our action committee to speak about, and to start making some inroads towards. I can tell you that for private schools, it's a lot easier for us to be able to go in and speak. And so I will take whatever school I'm able to get into to talk to these kids about various vulnerabilities, because I promise you, you can be like, my daughter we are best friends. First of all, listen, there is a time to be best friends with your kids, and when they're 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, it ain't it. Wait, you're gonna have plenty of time for that, hopefully, later. They need a parent. They need a parent bad. And if they're not getting credible information from you, they're going to source it from somewhere else. They're probably going to go to their friends who know just as little as they do, but they're going to make it up. And then they're going to take that as truth and fact. So that's another TED Talk for another time. Does anybody else have any other questions before we wrap this up? No? I want to thank each of you for being here. Thank you so much for taking your time. There is food still back there. There better not be in the next 10 minutes. I want y'all to all take the food. Feel free to stay and chat with us, talk with our law enforcement agents that are here. And God bless you all. Go out and live well.